So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. My name's Ash Giddings, and today's webinar is entitled Supercharge Your MSP Offerings, How to Grow Your Client Base Without Necessarily Increasing your headcount. The session will be recorded today, so if you miss anything or you want to share it with a colleague who's otherwise occupied, you can feel free to do that. And if you have any questions or comments, you can use the chat feature, and with a bit of luck, we'll have some time towards the end of the webinar to answer some questions for you. So, my name's Ash Giddings. I'm based out of the UK. Work predominantly on the power side, specialising in automation and security. And I've been at HelpSystems for around 15 years now. Prior to that, I worked at Halcyon, where we were acquired five years ago, so 15 years in total. I sit on the Common Europe Advisory Council for IBMI, so I get to see and to discuss and hear about what's happening, what's hot and happening for the wonderful platform some time in advance. And joining me today is Alex. Alex, do you just want to tell the world what you do for Meridian?
Sure. My job title is Head of PMO, which is the Project Management Office. So I get involved with the guys in the team, both technical, project, and sales, to successfully deliver managed service transition customers. But my background is with IBM systems as well. So I've been working with HelpSystems through various business partners for about 25 years. So I know these guys pretty well.
Thank you, Alex. So today's agenda, we're going to be looking at, initially we're going to look at sizing workloads. So this is predominantly from an MSP, but also slightly from a client's perspective. We're then going to look at replicating data. And with this, we're talking about really migrating data to, to cloud or to hosted solutions. We'll then we'll look at what we've called managing the mix. So this is the mix between cloud, hosted, remote monitoring and management, and on-prem boxes. Got some interesting stuff in and around there. We'll then look at onboarding clients, and for MSPs, this is key. And there are some methods that I'll share with you that can hopefully enable you to be a bit slicker there. We'll then look at often the scourge of MSPs and everybody really in general. And this takes me back to kind of working for one of the biggest IBMI shops in Europe and later at an MSP. So there's some good stuff in there. And then finally, we'll be looking at reporting and how best to streamline your regular customer reporting so that it's not taking you hour after hour. So before we get started today, HelpSystems has been around since the 80s and conduct marketplace surveys in both AX and IBMI that is shared throughout the year by many third parties, including IBM. We also conduct free security scans on AX, Linux. Running these, it literally takes a few seconds, but these tend to highlight any grey areas or even gaping holes that you may have in your environment. And the scans also give you a prioritized list of recommendations towards the back end. This slide, and actually the next slide, comes from the marketplace survey. So it talks about outsourcing, which is, I guess it's quite an old term now, but it's still relevant. So we asked in the latest 2020 survey, are you or have you considered outsourcing? And it was interesting how these figures have changed. We've been asking a similar question in each of the marketplace surveys. We've been running this for about 5 years now. And in fact, when we started, almost 3/4 of those that responded didn't consider outsourcing. So this is down now to 60%. So less and less each year. So I guess we've seen a 14% swing in 5 years of people either outsourcing or considering outsourcing. Alex, is this a trend that you see on the ground in what you do?
It is. We've had a few clients this year which have been, in fact, this last 18 months, and they've been traditional dyed-in-the-wool infrastructure buyers and keep it behind their own closed doors. But we've certainly had one client who, when the initial approach was made, they said, look, this year it's all changed, I'm sorry, but we want to go managed service. We want to push everything in the cloud, which was music to our ears, as that's exactly the space we're in. That's as we all are on this call today.
Excellent, thank you. And the second slide from the latest survey I just wanted to share with you before we get going is really kind of cloud adoption. So we only started actually asking this question in 2019. So in 2019, I think there was 83% said that their IBMI was on-prem only. So this has dropped to 77% now, and I would expect this to drop and drop and drop as we continue to ask this question in the survey as the years go on. I know there are a number of public cloud services now for IBMI. There's IBM themselves. There's Google, I think it's there now. There's Azure, there's Skytap, public clouds. There's also in the cloud, plus many others, and of course, close to home, Meridian IT. Alex, how have you seen cloud adoption for IBMI, and what other services do you offer in and around your cloud?
Well, harking back to the previous comment I made, we are seeing customers prefer to put their kit in the cloud, and that goes across all industries at the moment. So including financial. I think as the data center has become more of a reliable source and certainly a secure place to hold systems, then it is absolutely people are wanting to move into that kind of environment rather than relying on either their own staff, because frankly a lot of their own staff are coming up towards retirement age who were maybe in the early days of the AS400 I series and now IBM I. But yeah, we're seeing people adopt a cloud approach for this platform, whether that is purely an infrastructure, whether it is as a co-location, or whether it is handing over a full managed service. And within Meridian as well, we've seen people start to look at cloud for artificial intelligence as well, the AI buzzword. So we're offering AI in the cloud and DevOps in the cloud as well. So we're seeing a real take up across the board on this platform at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know some of the content we have today is specific to cloud, and some of the things that I may cover you may think that I'm cloud bashing, but I'm not cloud bashing. I'm just saying that you need to be aware of this. In fact, I'm a big fan of cloud, and we have a webinar next month where we talk about these are the things, a little bit more detail than today, that you need to consider before moving to cloud. So just watch out for that webinar. So before we get started, we're just going to run the first of 2 poll questions. So let me just launch this. And hopefully you should see that now. So we're interested in where you go to research IBMI solutions for MSP offerings, or even IBMI solutions in general. Because we've kind of seen this shift in recent years, and obviously people only have so much marketing spend, so we're just interested in where you go so we know where to funnel our spend. So do you go to peer sites, peer review sites such as Gartner or G2? Do you use social networks? I know personally I'm a big fan of LinkedIn and often get kind of lost in and around LinkedIn. Can't remember what I went there for, or maybe some of the other social media channels. Do you become lazy like I sometimes do and I just jump straight into a browser and hope for the best? Or maybe use IBM's GSD. If there's something else that you use, please feel free to chat that in. Alex, where do you go? What's your first port of call?
That's a great question. I've got quite a network of people I guess I've worked with over the years, and I would tend to go to that. So that's going to be social networks, isn't it, really, for me?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
think
is.
I'd go down the social networks route for me.
Okay.
Go to somebody you trust, somebody you know.
Yeah. So let me just close this poll out. Thank you for all those that have shared there, and I will just share. So most of the people tend to go to peer sites. These seem to be the de facto standard. These are trusted sites. They seem to be heavily resourced and heavily vetted, so I can see that. And keyword searches, these are the top two, and they're probably my favorites too, although I do, as I say, do end up in this black hole of LinkedIn. So thank you for sharing that with me. And we'll jump straight into sizing workloads. So these are the things that clients considering cloud adoption or cloud migration or moving to managed service providers in general might be asking. If we're talking about IBMI, which generally we are, we talk about collection services when we talk about performance data. If we talk about AX or Linux, we're talking about NNON. Is this data still available? This is often what we get asked. What if my peak workload next month won't fit into the resources I'm renting if it's cloud? Can I scale up? What's the minimum scale up term? And if so, what cost? I know some cloud providers charge by the hour, and at least one of them actually charges by the second. So it's interesting, that is. But what if I start to encounter latency or response time issues? Maybe the problems
Ash,
are
you just
related
want
to.
to clear the quick poll from the screen so we can see your slides again.
Sorry. Thank you, Alex.
No problem.
But yeah, what if I start to encounter latency or response time issues? Maybe the problems are related to CPW, but maybe more likely they're IO related. So if I want to return to my on-prem solution, am I charged? Am I charged by the terabyte of data that I want to send back or send backwards? Also, what control do I have? People often worry about control. Am I responsible for OS upgrades, PTF upgrades, or does my cloud or managed service provider look after those? Remember, many clients will be moving from a single tenant box, their own box, to a multi-tenant box. So every partition that gets added to that server, wherever it may be, will have an impact on disk performance. I know Meridian have a cloud, and I know we've done some work with you, Alex, on sizing, which we're going to talk about shortly. But do you have any problems sizing workloads for clients moving to cloud? Is there much science in it in your area?
I think one of the biggest challenges to overcome with the IBM I is the CPW number, isn't it? It's one of those numbers that it kind of means a lot, but doesn't mean anything. So we've tended to steer away from trying to be overly smart with the way we do workload sizing, and that's simply because the likelihood is that you're taking a customer who has got a fairly old machine and you're putting them on a newer platform. So if you apply the same memory and the same number of CPU cores, then the likelihood is that it's going to perform the same or better.
Yeah, you're right. There's an awful lot of things to consider, really, including internal versus external disk. That's none of the survey questions that we ask, actually. And there is a definite swing towards external disk now, which I think is a good thing. It makes IBMI feel normal, feel like any other platform, which is what we want. But also, there's a lot of clients now using enterprise processor pools, so you just need to be careful about how they're going to be handled. If you're an MSP, how much CPU, disk, memory does a new client require? Should we be sizing it based on their average workload, or their peak workload? What if all clients' peak workload occurs at the same time? Unlikely, I know, but we need to cater for it. Will the infrastructure cope? And will SLAs continue to be met? We want them to have clients transition to cloud. We want to know exactly what they require, no more, no less. If we sell too much, we have less ability to upsell. Sell too little, and performance and the experience may be degraded. There's a real delicate balance that demands a tool, I feel. And questions that clients will ask: how much extra will they pay when their peak workload needs to be catered for? What about plans for future business and workload growth? How much will that cost me? These all need to be factored in. They'll also ask, is the cloud the most cost-effective vehicle for me to run my production, my development, and my test workloads? It may not be true in all of those cases. Now, this slide looks very dramatic, but moving to the cloud is really just it's not a drag and drop of that workload. It's a core change to the infrastructure. And I know most cloud vendors sell compute resources by CPW. I think the notable exception is IBM. And performance problems can arise because CPW is not a throughput benchmark. Sorry, it is a throughput benchmark and not a performance benchmark. Are the partitions on the physical server dedicated, shared, capped, or uncapped? These are the questions that need asking. What happens if all customers on a box have their peak season or peak workload at the same time? When is their peak season? Disk performance. This seems to be one of the biggest issues. And I know almost all cloud vendors use external storage, but there are a lot of variables that can affect performance with external storage. So I think a word of caution here is be careful not to assume it'll be okay, and please do some capacity maths there. For memory, for IBM, memory on a multi-tenant system is usually a limitation. And by that, I mean that often cloud providers can run out of memory long before they run out of CPU resources. What I'm going to show you here is Performance Navigator. So Performance Navigator is a tool that HelpSystems acquired some 2 or 3 years ago, and it allows you to do performance forensics, reporting, and problem solving, along with what we call what if, so capacity planning. It uses collection services data or NMON data, so there's no additional overhead on the partitions at all. It uses that existing data and allows you to do perform performance analytics for HPUX, Solaris, Linux, AX, BIOS, all within the same graphical interface. So it allows you to look at peak workloads. You see on the screenshot on the left here, there's a peak workload. I can drill into that workload and see whether that was caused by a one-off spike, maybe caused by somebody running a badly formed query, or maybe it's a legitimate spike that, should they be moving to this workload to cloud, it needs to be catered for. Maybe it happens every day or every month. We can see. Performance Navigator has many predefined graphs. It covers hardware performance, memory, disks, that's disk space and performance, the frame and the whole data center. And as I say, has the ability to drill right into this data. Our Performance Navigator can show you whether individual or combined workload. Let me get my mouse pointer active here. We can show you whether individual workloads, so one workload and one partition, or combined workloads, so gathering up workloads on multiple partitions, whether they'll run on a particular box. You can group all of those together. You can also grow workloads as well. So you can grow them artificially to simulate some growth, and you can see how long the box or the environment will be able to cater for that workload and that intended growth. Remember, other things such as application changes, acquisitions, server consolidations can all have an impact on capacity. Performance Navigator also lets you simulate the merging of workloads, which I've mentioned. Now, MSPs can use this tool to size clients for onboarding and for capacity planning purposes on their own hardware. Clients considering moving to a managed service provider or even looking at new hardware can conduct both capacity planning and historical analysis to see, report on, and troubleshoot issues. It's a really neat tool. It's got some real kind of wide-ranging capabilities, incredibly powerful. There's also a free version of this tool as well, and it has 2 free graphs. So you can use 2 out of the tens or possibly hundreds of graphs. And these 2 free graphs are CPU by priority and disk space occupancy. So it's worth pulling down this product and having a look at it. As I say, no overhead at all. So go and have a play with that. Replicating data. So Alex, do you want to kick us off? What are the options, or what do you use to transition clients' data to your cloud offering?
For Meridian IT, we use a variety of methods. Every customer is unique, as I'm sure we'll all agree. Although there are some methods which people tend to prefer. So the absolute basic approach would be to do a full system save to tape, stick it in a courier's bag, send it over to a data center, put it in a server and a tape drive, and get it restored. That can take a long time, and obviously it depends where the data center is and where the client's premises are, and there's obviously a risk to the data as it transitions as well. So many people look at the full save to tape option as being a little bit archaic, but we work with people like Skytap also, where they have a near nil downtime approach, where they will replicate data across to their environment, and then they will just make the transition by flicking a switch. And they've got some examples of that where they've migrated dozens of partitions very, very quickly into a cloud environment, with essentially the users of the systems being practically unaware that any kind of infrastructure transition has occurred, whether the system was on premise, on cloud, or wherever it might have been. So there's a number of different approaches, and I think the advice from Meridian here is to make sure you have a good long discussion with the customer about the nature of their data and how they feel they want that treated as you transition across to a cloud.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's very much horses for courses these days. I think there are definitely more options than there were, which is a good thing. HelpSystems have a tool called RoboHA. Again, this was acquired some 4 years ago, nearly 4 years ago. It's based on remote journaling, so it's a logical replication solution for IBM I. So if you have point-in-time backups, so if you're going to migrate to the cloud and you do what Alex mentioned to begin with, take a point-in-time backup or a snapshot. Obviously, transactions are not being kept up to date. That data's got to be moved to the target machine. It's got to be restored. All the time, transactions are still being processed. So data's not being kept in sync. In addition, there are a number of people now considering having their DR at an MSP or in the cloud. So let's look at what RoboHA provides. First of all, it's easy to set up. Typically, you can be replicating data within 20 minutes. It's a simple install on the source and on the target machine. As I say, it's built on remote journaling, which is part of the operating system. So the tool sits on top of something that's been built into the operating system for X number of years now. Robot HA also has some short-term licensing options, and this enables MSPs to replicate data in real time until such a point where the client is ready to move, ready to break that link. They no longer need the source box. And remember, using this kind of tool, your target copy, in this scenario, the cloud, can be used for BI purposes or for backups. So that's if you're considering having DR in the cloud. There are options there as well. Managing the mix, a great title here. So as I see it, everybody is at a different stage of cloud adoption. And even though this is a meandering path, it's not as meandering as my next slide. So everybody's at a different stage. Some workloads are suitable, others not quite so suitable, and regulations may not allow the full adoption to cloud. Not for today, but there's something called data residency, data sovereignty, data localization that may govern what workloads and what data can be moved to cloud. As I mentioned at the start, there's another webinar I'm running next month, which digs a bit deeper into those three topics. It's quite interesting as I've been digging around. But the upshot is that the MSPs are really left with a mixed bag of customers, for want of a better term. Alex, can you talk about the mix you've got at Meridian and how you manage them?
I think we're probably like most MSPs. We've got traditional clients where they are on-prem entirely and completely. We've got some who have simply wanted a sysadmin type role to be able to remotely come in and monitor their machine. And there are HelpSystems products that we use to help us to do that, whether that's AIX or IBM I or Intel or Linux. Doesn't really make any difference to us. And there are customers who are beginning to make the jump. So maybe they'll put DR in the cloud first of all, or maybe they will put their toe in the water and put a development environment in the cloud, or maybe the whole lot. We've got customers who are at each stage of that journey. And I think the next slide that you've got, Ash, is just helping us to understand that there is complexity in the journey. And what we have found at Meridian is that the HelpSystems tools have really helped us to put a fence around some of those gnarly topics, like copying data over, and give the customer a comfort really that it's well controlled, and that all the stakeholders that need to understand what's happening to their data or how the migration is going to occur, it begins to remove some of the complexity and the confusion. Because moving to the cloud is it's a shift in mindset in many cases for many customers, and it will affect their compliance department, it'll affect their IT department, it affects the commercial departments, it'll affect the people who are involved in business continuity, because everything changes, the landscape all changes. So using HelpSystems products has really given us a leg up and a help start in just trying to be able to clearly articulate to a customer what their journey to cloud might look like.
And for those of you in the UK, you may actually recognise this image. This is the magic roundabout in Swindon, which comprises of 5 mini roundabouts built around a central roundabout, the 6th. For those of you that are outside the UK, maybe in the US, where roundabouts are particularly scarce, if you're ever in the UK, you're probably best to avoid Swindon and the magic roundabout, because it's particularly hairy, shall we say. But the answer to managing this mix, we think, is what you see on here. So what you really see here is what many MSPs that use HelpSystems solutions tend to end up with. They end up with one or more of these guys. These are enterprise consoles. So this is a Halcyon enterprise console. And for those boxes that are hosted, they're in the data center. Hey, they connect via port 15,000 to those boxes, whether they're or whatever the flavor of platform. And alerts can be received on here. For those maybe where they're more remote, where maybe they do RMM, again, it's port 15,000. We don't really care about the underlying infrastructure. Those alerts can come through here. There's a third option here as well. So for those customers where you don't necessarily have a permanent connectivity to them, so no permanent VPN, those alerts could be forwarded over the internet from this client, customer B, in this example, over the internet to a customer-facing or an internet-facing enterprise console within the MSP. This should say MSP here, and those alerts can be forwarded to this main console. So what the MSP is left with is, in theory, one enterprise console here that is capable of receiving alerts in from all these customers. In practice, a lot of MSPs would probably have multiple enterprise consoles. They may have they may split it by customer or by platform or by discipline. Maybe some security alerts go to one team and more operational alerts go to another. But I guess what I'm trying to depict here is it really doesn't matter. There is lots of flexibility in the Halcyon solution and the options available in it as well. Okay. Alex, do the customers at Meridian, do they typically take the journey that I mentioned? Does it tend to be remote monitoring and management, and then they end up on your infrastructure and then eventually on your cloud, or do some of them jump straight to cloud?
Yeah, we do have some jumping straight to cloud, but again, we've got instances of all of them really. I think the most comforting for a customer is that somebody else has got a pair of eyes on their system from a sysadmin perspective. So we see we've probably got them. That's the most customers that we have, I think, probably at the moment. Have got Halcyon Enterprise Console in operation on their site. When they do want to make the leap into the cloud, they just leave us. The Halcyon console remains with them or remains with us. And so as far as we're concerned, it's just the endpoint has changed, but the system is still the same. It gives a consistency for us as an MSP. We're looking at the same statistics, whether a customer is on-prem, hosted in a third-party DC, or hosted in one of our own data centers. Doesn't really make any difference. Enterprise console is the aggregator.
Yes, yeah. Great, thank you. Although it may seem trivial, the applying of rental keys, which is what the majority, if not all, of managed service providers take from HelpSystems, it can be incredibly time-consuming and prone to human error. So Halcyon, we've devised a code uploader. So with the code uploader, we provide a quarterly key file that contains all the keys for all the partitions currently on rental. Once it's launched, so once we launch the code uploader, we pick the code file and it connects to the Halcyon Network Manager and updates the keys in seconds. It also gives you a nice big green tick if that update has been completed successfully. So Halcyon has a flexible MSP model also that allows you to add and remove clients at regular short-term intervals. I think that's quarterly. So I know there's quite a mix. Some clients you'll take some boxes on maybe for 6 months and then they disappear. That's not a problem at all, and all that's catered for in the code uploader and code file. In addition, there's a countdown to key expiration, which will provide alerts both locally and to the central enterprise console that we talked about on the previous slide. So it's a real time saver. Now, onboarding clients. Often this is the first time that maybe a client's techies are talking to techies at an MSP at that level. So it's really the opportunity to make a good first impression at a technical level. I don't think that should ever be underestimated. But there can be some challenges, and these are the kind of 4 challenges that that I see. I guess one, every client is different. Some incredibly knowledgeable, others maybe not so much. Every application has different requirements in terms of monitoring and touch points. Even the same application run by different clients requires some variation, often quite a lot. And MSPs do not necessarily know the customer's environment, the customer's application, or peculiarities that come with it. So, Alex, talk to me about how you approach this and what problems you face with onboarding.
Well, they're good challenges, and I agree. These are the ones that we tend to come across. Challenge number 2 is possibly one of the gotchas, unless you know what you're doing. We've got some RPG developers in-house at Meridian, so that helps us get over some of the issues there. But particularly if you've got people with legacy applications, potentially this is the first time in quite a long time that they've needed to move it onto a newer platform. So you need to make sure the software is portable in that respect. But I think some of the other things to add in that are challenges from an MSP perspective is connectivity. For the first time, perhaps this customer is putting their kit somewhere else. It's off-prem, so it's off their local area network, and that gives them security challenges, gives them network challenges, maybe latency challenges. So the comms piece shouldn't be underestimated. And finally, I think the other thing that is an MSP specific, if the MSP has got a large capacity system, which is quite a high P-band server, which might be a good investment for the business in terms of building a multi-tenant environment, that could pose challenges for the customer because their software, if it is purchased on a P-banding, may suddenly, the maintenance costs may go up, whereas perhaps the client had been expecting that the maintenance charges might come down as they were pushing it out to the cloud. So there's a few additional gotchas there that I'll bring to the party, Ash.
Thank you, Alex. So our approach to this is where are we going? Is this pyramid here? So where are we? And we use this approach for customers and for applications as we build up the layers. So we start with the bottom here. We spend a lot of time working with templates. And quite often, I know we've got one from Meridian, we work up front with the managed service provider to design a template that covers the core monitoring that is applied pretty much to every customer. So this would be a set or a collection of commonly used rules to save you from having to rekey these rules on every single customer and every single partition that you take. And these can include alerting and escalation routines, as well as contacts as well. We then move up a layer to the OS. So through experience, we've built one for key operating system touch points. An example I have here is we've got a IBM services template, which has been built and designed to monitor 231 different services provided by IBM. So this will be FTP, SMTP, all these kind of TCP services and extended services that, they may result in additional subsystems. There may be a job, there may be a good job status, there may be a message. All of that has been built into a template. And then as we go up the food chain, we're applying these templates on top of each other. The third layer is the application layer. And we've worked with both application vendors and or industry experts to build up a selection of commonly used application templates. And we're always adding to this list. This is a moving target. As and when we learn about more applications, create a template for them. So these are designed to help answer the question, where should I start? And then finally, once you've put these layers in place, we tend to lean on the customer local knowledge, shall we say. And here's some of the templates that we've built. So we've now got these in our kit bag. They tend to be hidden, and there's a key we can give you that will enable these kind of rules. So there's a number there for HA. There's some ERP solutions there, and there's a number of others there. And as I say, these will be adapted, improved, built on over time. So if there's any commonly used applications that you're using that you'd like to work with us on, we're happy to build out our template range. Manual task management. Now, I've worked for an MSP. I've also worked for a large shop, and I've also worked with MSPs. And often, what I see is, and I know I've done it myself, you've got reminders all over the place. You've got them online. You've got a printed check sheet that everyone probably has access to and can change. You've got personal reminders in applications on bits of paper, on Post-its. Some of these reminders or manual tasks are handed over at shift handover time or via phone call. There'll always be manual tasks. I come from an automation background, and whenever I see a task, I'll do it twice. When I come to do it a third time, I'll either look to outsource it to someone or automate it. There'll always be manual tasks, things that can't be automated. And I know one MSP that we work with has over 20,000 manual tasks, and it can be a real headache. So how do we help answer that headache? Well, what you see here is Halcyon's Task Supervisor, and this acts as a central web-based repository for all tasks. It's not linked to any platform. It's a Windows install. As I say, it's web-based, and it has the ability to, within it, you have the ability to design and segregate tasks by client, by platform, by owner, or a multitude of other means. So these tasks can be one-off tasks, or maybe tasks with a regular cadence. You can define tasks along with hyperlinks. I've got half a dozen tasks here. You can have hyperlinks to the procedures, or maybe to a runbook. And you can also restrict the visibility to selected personnel or roles. Incredibly powerful. The good thing is you can also set a notification. So if there's a task due at a particular time, maybe 7 AM, and it should take 10 minutes, at 7:10, if it's not been completed, failed, or at least started, you can get an alert out to our friend, the Central Enterprise Console. So this can be worth its weight in gold. Again, it allows you to go to a single place to look for alerts. And here's one here. This could typically be a manual task. It needs doing, it needs checking. So as mentioned, Task Supervisor allows you to define roles, and each role is capable of performing the actions associated within it. So for example, you'd probably have an administrator that's capable of defining tasks, a user that's capable of starting, failing, completing a task, and maybe a manager that can report or generate reports on how much time has been spent on tasks for a particular customer, and also what's outstanding. It's got a reporting element as well. Here's a sample report, and it allows you to see when and where your team's time goes and what tasks are outstanding. And we think that Task Supervisor is quite a unique tool in the marketplace. As I say, some MSPs have literally thousands of manual tasks that are scheduled over the month. And what I think is the last topic, reporting. I mentioned I work for an MSP, and when I did, it used to take me a number of days to produce and check service level agreement reports each month. as each was it was a variation on a theme and involved often multiple platforms. Enabling clients to come in and to run their own reports would have been great. I think that also shows some transparency. And essentially what these reports allow you to do is to exhibit what value you provide to the client and also where your team are spending their time. You might discover using this tool that one of your clients is occupying 20% of your team's time. Alex, how have HelpSystems worked with you on client reporting?
Well, we, I guess in the early days of doing managed services, we were very quickly faced with the challenge of, what do we make a standard report look like? How do we tailor that? How do we make it appropriate to the client base that we're working with? And we found that HelpSystems not only were able to give us a choice of different sorts of reports that we could just take out of the can, but there was also some services and consulting available within HelpSystems that was quite mature. Some of it allowing us to do some quite clever things with reports because they've got developers in the back office as well. So HelpSystems were just able to help us to get reporting shipshape and Bristol fashion really quickly. So it gave a professional image to our customers from their MSP, from Meridian IT. I think you've got some examples, haven't you, Ash? Yeah,
I have indeed, yeah. So this is the report designer, where you can use one of the 30 or so shipped templates, is that word again, tweaking them with your own logo or your own graphics, or you can design your own report from scratch, using literally the hundreds of controls that are included in the designer. An example there, and I put this in there, there are over 59 different types of graphs alone, and that's really kind of before you get started. I mentioned the ability to self-serve. So MSPs have the ability to allow customers into their advanced reporting suite portal. They would get a login, they would see their own servers. I'm seeing all of them here, but they could be logically grouped. They can also run reports themselves. Again, that's another activity you can take away from yourself, a bit of self-serve. Roles, similar to task supervisor, you've got the ability to define roles in here. So you could allow some people to only run the actual exporting of reports to PDF, and that's probably what you do for your clients. So lots of different tiers of roles in here. And here's some examples of some reports here. This one's one of yours, Alex. So this is a red, amber, green report that in the background, as soon as we hit the threshold, this would go a different color. So this front page would probably be this would be a management summary. We can also produce this bar across at whatever level you want, showing SLA compliance and targets. And then we've got the ability to produce, it's just a sample of some of the graphs that we can produce. They can also cross-platform as well. So you might be interested in a disk space occupancy, irrespective of the platform. And again, that can be included within the same graph. And here's some interesting ones here. These have recently been added. So we can produce reports that show you the top 10 alerts by device group. And that group, I have it set to a platform. I've got AX, I've got IBM. In an MSP environment, they will probably be customers. So this will be customer A. What are the top 10 alerts for customer A? So this is useful for MSPs to understand where their time is going, and also useful to help your clients as part of a continuous improvement program. This other report here, again, this can tell you where your time is going. Again, it can be grouped by customer, and it can tell you how many alerts have been raised for that customer, how long it took you to close them, how long it took you to respond to them or comment on them, and that kind of thing. You can really see where your time is going. It's just some more graphs here that again show you the capability of producing maybe a CPU load graph. And this is a Red Hat box, this is a Windows box. It really doesn't matter. The Advanced Reporting Suite has some intelligence in the background that makes that decision and creates that. Alex, do you want to talk a little bit before we close about what Meridian do?
Yeah, I certainly can do. Thanks, Ash. So very quickly then, Meridian is a international company. Our headquarters is out in the United States of America, but we are British owned. And we've got offices in the UK and Germany, Australia, Singapore. So we're quite well spread across the time zones. Quite a substantial organization doing many different things, but I think the common theme for the organization in the last 5 years has been the MSP space and growing that. So we're Germany's largest IBM I and IBM Power managed service partner. So in the UK particularly, we are IBM Power resellers. We provide managed services either remotely, as we said earlier, or on cloud. We've got our own spaces in the cloud that we can spin up. We've also got a cybersecurity division that is kind of a separate part of the organization, really, as often is dictated by security organizations. So we've got a SOC, which is a security operations center. We're using various tools to monitor different people's systems across the country, across the UK. And we can help with DDoS events, and we can help with any other cyber type breaches, assisting customers walk through any plans to either make them more resilient or to help them in the process of actually walking through a cyber attack or a phishing attack, or any of the recent things that have come across and been published in news headlines. We've got a software team as well, so quite well allied to traditional IBM technologies, but we've also got some of the Microsoft orientated skills as well. So we'll do WebSphere, Java, Visual Basic. We'll do a lot of the scripting languages as well, so Python and various others.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing which is seeing growth at the moment really is DevOps. So we've allied with one of the world's leading IBM I DevOps organizations, and that's helping organizations to face challenges like the GDPR challenge, where you have to encrypt sensitive data on a development or a test system while still maintaining integrity in that environment, so that you can still promote good quality code into a production environment. And finally, artificial intelligence. We are one of the first IBM partners, I think, in Europe to offer artificial intelligence cloud offering. So we've got a number of customers that are on that platform at the moment. Some of them are well published in the press already by IBM. So if you're interested to see how artificial intelligence can be used on the IBM Power platform, then have a look at Oxford Cancer Biomarkers, OCB. Fascinating little study in how to use artificial intelligence to identify cancer cells and free up clinicians to do a better job and effectively improve the diagnosis time for cancer cells. So that's a little bit of insight into Meridian IT. Have a look on the web, I guess, to see what else that we do.
Brilliant, thanks, Alex. HelpSystems have, as you've seen, they've grown organically and via acquisition over the years, and now offer a complete line of workload automation and software solutions to automate a wide range of solutions across pretty much any platform, from job scheduling to message management solutions, from backup recovery to high availability and more. And just before we finish today, I just wanted a brief recap of what we've covered. We've looked at workload sizing and how we can use Performance Navigator to take the guesswork out. We've seen Robot HA and how we can administer short-term keys to help A, get the data to an MSP or to a cloud solution, and B, to keep it in sync until there's a cutoff point. We looked at the enterprise console and the way it can give a single pane of glass view, irrespective of where the underlying infrastructure is. We've seen the use of templates, our growing portfolio of templates, where we layer up. Task Supervisor, how to use it as a dumping ground for those things that we can't automate with tools. And we've also seen how to use the advanced reporting suite to enable clients to come in and to self-serve, or simply to see where your time is going, where your team's time is going. And just before we finish, I'm just going to launch just the second poll. So bear with me one moment. So we're just interested in how HelpSystems can follow up with you today. Do you want to know more about Performance Navigator tool, about data replication, so logical replication? Maybe you want to know a little bit more about monitoring in general, irrespective of platform, or maybe you want to talk about onboarding and automation, or maybe you'd like to know more about SLA reporting and the flexibility that we provide. So I'll just leave that up for a few seconds. Fantastic. And we've overrun slightly, but I'll tell you what, we'll do 2 questions that have come in. Alex, first one's for you. What percentage of Meridian's customers live on cloud?
I think it's probably about 60% on the cloud, Ash, at the moment.
Okay, and that's I guess that's forever increasing. That's not going to decline now.
No, not at all. That's forever increasing, and I think probably for those guys who have moved onto the cloud, some of them are dipping their toes in with a dev environment, as I said earlier, and so there's room for them to have confidence in that and move on and put their production environment on there eventually as well.
Fantastic. And the second question we have: can I trial products? The answer is yes. Typically, they come with a 30-day trial, and during that 30 days, you're entitled to full technical support. So that's getting the software installed and full support, phone, email, portal support during that period. So that just leaves me to say that thank you for listening. Thank you, Alex, for your time and for your knowledge today, and thank you for HelpSystems. Cheers. Bye bye.
Thanks all.